Namibian Labor scarred back. 1912-13 Ludwig Kramer whipped him for years. Johann Jacob Earl photographed the result. The German colonial administration in Namibia killed between 24,000 and 100,000 Hara and Nama people. Buchenwald liberated. April 11, 1945 prisoners had already revolted and seized control before U.S. troops arrived. Patton ordered everything documented. Every body, every room, every face. Subscribe to British Gallery if you love history. And also subscribe if you live in the United States. He was correct. Tom Herndl, shot in Gaza, the British photographer, was moving Palestinian children out of a sniper's line of fire when he was shot in the head. He died 9 months later without regaining consciousness. The Israeli soldier who shot him was convicted of manslaughter. Napoleon III on his deathbed, 1873. William Downey, he had been Emperor of France, lost the Franco-Prussian War, and died in exile in England. William Downey photographed him in death with the same neutrality he applied to the living. The Second French Empire ended here, in this bed, in this country that wasn't his. Jean Amilcar, former slave adopted by Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, taken from Senegal as a child by a French officer. He was eventually adopted into the royal household of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. The French Revolution that guillotined his adoptive parents left him entirely without a country or category. Soviet worker with first Soviet atomic bomb. The Soviet Union tested its first atomic bomb in August 1949, 3 years ahead of American intelligence estimates. The program was accelerated by espionage. This man stands beside the weapon that ended America's nuclear monopoly and began 4 decades of mutually assured destruction. Last photo of Ulysses Grant, 1885. He spent his final months racing to finish his memoirs before throat cancer killed him, writing to secure his family's financial future. He completed the manuscript 4 days before this photograph. He died 4 days after it. Chinese communist militiamen demonstrating tunnel warfare. Central Hebei, 1943. The tunnel networks under Central Hebei became one of the most effective guerrilla systems of the Second World War. Entire villages connected underground, with concealed firing positions and escape routes. Xu Xiaohua photographed the demonstration. The Japanese never fully neutralized the tunnels. James Baldwin, quote, he spent years unlearning what American society had systematically taught him about his own worth. The sentence he wrote about that process is more precise than most political arguments. Maria Gambarelli, prima ballerina, Metropolitan Opera. 1922, she founded Gammy's Girls, a precision dance troupe historians credit as the direct predecessor to the Rockettes. In 1922, she was both prima ballerina and choreographer. Rubber plantation worker, Belgian Congo, Alice Seeley Harris. Circa 1898, Harris documented the atrocities of King Leopold II's Congo Free State, where rubber quotas were enforced by cutting off hands. She brought the photographs to Britain as evidence. The guy poses in front of tram accident. Constantinople, 1914. Someone's vehicle has left the tracks, and this man has positioned himself in front of the wreckage with the relaxed confidence of someone who arrived after the danger, but before the crowd dispersed. 1914, Constantinople. London lodger, death by arsenic. 1912, she died after a prolonged illness. Her landlord took control of her finances. When her body was exhumed, arsenic was found in the tissue. The sequence, illness, financial control, poison, exhumation, tells a story the inquest was apparently slow to reach. 16th century door, Piombi prison. Venice, the Piombi. The Leads, set directly beneath the roof of the Doge Palace, where summer heat made the cells unbearable. Casanova escaped from here in 1756 through the ceiling. This door held people the Venetian state preferred the public not to know about. Ava Gardner studio publicity shots. 1940s MGM signed her at 18 after a screen test where the sound didn't record. The director told the studio, she can't act, she can't talk, she's terrific. The studio photographs were designed to sell the image before the films could prove or disprove it. Buchenwald liberation. Survivors celebrate, April 11, 1945. Despite starvation and exhaustion that had reduced them to the edge of survival, some prisoners summoned enough strength to celebrate when American troops arrived. The human body's capacity to find joy in the precise moment of liberation. Leatherface, Thomas Hewitt. Only known image, the man behind the mask. The photograph is unsettling not because of what it shows but because of what it normalizes. A face, a name, a person who existed before he became the thing the horror films turned him into. Antigua Estacio de Sagrera Mercaderies, built 1922. Demolished, the station stood for over a century handling freight through Barcelona's Sagrera district. It was built in 1922 and demolished recently. Another piece of industrial-era railway architecture that Soyuz 11 crew found dead. June 29, 1971, they had completed a successful 23-day mission. During re-entry, an air valve failed 104 miles above Earth. The capsule landed automatically. When rescuers opened the hatch, all three were dead, blood from their mouths, faces calm. They remained the only humans to die in outer space. Maria Bello, 1983 high school photograph before ER, before a history of violence, before the Golden Globe nominations. She was a high school student in Pennsylvania in 1983 with a year photo that looks like exactly what it was. The career that followed was not yet visible in this frame. Unknown man E. Mummy from TT320 cache. He was found in an expensive cedar coffin with no inscriptions identifying him. Entirely anonymous inside a burial that should have announced its occupant. DNA analysis suggests a connection to Ramesses III's family. RMS Titanic sets sail, April 10, 1912. She left Southampton with 2,224 people aboard on a Wednesday morning, 4 days before the iceberg. The departure photographs show a ship too large to photograph entirely from the dock. Nobody on the pier was taking a last photograph. Loretta Swit, Hot Lips Houlihan. She played Margaret Houlihan for 11 seasons across a show that ran longer than the actual Korean War. Off-screen, she hosted wildlife programming and campaigned for animal welfare for decades. Theodore Roosevelt captures boat thieves at gunpoint, 1886. He was 28, serving as a North Dakota deputy sheriff, and personally captured 3 armed boat thieves after tracking them through freezing wilderness for days. He then photographed them. Roosevelt was constitutionally incapable of doing anything without also documenting it thoroughly. Wilson and Taft laughing at White House, March 4, 1913. The outgoing president and the president-elect were photographed laughing together before the inauguration, a transfer of power so civil it looks almost improbable from any subsequent historical distance. Both men were about to be overtaken by events neither had fully anticipated. Victorian-era morphine injection kit, 1890s. Morphine was legal, widely prescribed, and sold in kits designed for home use in the 1890s. Doctors prescribed it for pain, melancholy, menstrual discomfort, and restlessness. The addiction crisis that followed took decades. Yuri Gagarin before launch, April 12, 1961. He was 27 years old and about to become the first human being to leave Earth's atmosphere. The photograph was taken before the launch, before he knew for certain that the rocket would work, before the orbit, before the safe return. He looks entirely calm. Marilyn Monroe visiting troops in Korea, 1954. She performed 10 shows in 4 days in February 1954 for 100,000 soldiers in freezing temperatures. The soldier who took this Polaroid wrote the caption himself. She was the most beautiful thing most of those men had seen since leaving home. SS personnel search belongings at Babin Yar. October 1941. Johannes Harley photographed the aftermath of the massacre in Afghacolor, a color film process that makes the atrocity look almost painterly. Over 33,000 Jews had been shot at the ravine 2 weeks earlier. French soldier with 2 prosthetic arms learning to write. WW1. He lost both arms in the trenches and was photographed relearning to write with prosthetics designed and fitted during the war itself. The photograph documents rehabilitation that medicine had to invent from scratch because the war was producing injuries at a scale nobody had prepared for. Saddam Hussein visits mosque in Franco, Spain, 1974. 5 years before he became president of Iraq, Saddam Hussein visited Spain as a government official, while Francisco Franco was still alive and ruling. The two regimes had pragmatic diplomatic relationships. The mosque visit was photographed as a cultural exchange. MAZ 7310 truck hauling liquid hydrogen tank, Baikonur. 1960s. The Baikonur Cosmodrome required infrastructure at a scale that required purpose-built vehicles. The MAZ 7310 was designed to carry loads that no existing truck could handle. The liquid hydrogen it transported here would propel something into orbit. Korean female student meets young pioneers, North Korea. 1940s Korea in the 1940s was still under Japanese occupation. The Young Pioneers were a Soviet-aligned youth organization being established in the northern region that would become North Korea in 1948. Library books float in Great Flood of Paris. 1910, the Seine rose nearly 9 meters in January 1910 and flooded a third of Paris. Library books floated down streets that had been thoroughfared the week before. The city took months to fully drain. South African Air Force Blackburn Buccaneers. Circa 1970s, 1980s, the Buccaneer formed the backbone of South Africa's nuclear strike capability during the border war. The aircraft South Africa flew during Operations Reindeer and Pro-T were the same ones capable of delivering the nuclear weapons the apartheid government was secretly developing. The airmen in this photograph served both functions. Changing street lamps, Ohio. 1910, the conversion from gas to electric streetlights required workers to physically climb each lamp and replace the mechanism by hand. Ohio in 1910 was mid-electrification. The Vance the Trapper Boy, age 15. 1908, Lewis Hine 75 cents a day for 10 hours of opening and shutting a door in a coal mine. He had been doing it for several years. Lewis Hine photographed him as evidence, building a case for child labor laws that took another 16 years. Princess Fawzia of Egypt. 1940s, she was considered one of the most beautiful women in the world. Photographed for international magazines, married to the Shah of Iran, then divorced and returned to Egypt. Her beauty was documented exhaustively. Her own preferences about her life were documented considerably less. Kale family with 8 children, Wales Douglas and Elizabeth Hearn had been living in a house for 6 years before returning to their caravans to travel from Bala to Swansea. The photograph documents a family negotiating between settlement and the life they had been living before the house, and choosing the road again. My Lai Massacre, women and children photographed before being killed. March 16, 1968, Ronald Hebel took this photograph moments before U.S. soldiers killed these people. He later testified that soldiers attempted to assault the woman while her mother tried to shield her. San Juan de los Lagos Fair, Jalisco, Mexico, 1940. Enrique Diaz documented Mexican public life with a specific attention of someone who understood that the country's fairs, markets, and religious gatherings were where ordinary life made itself visible. Jewish American soldiers hold services in Goebbels' residence. March 18, 1945, they conducted Jewish religious services inside the former home of the man who ran Nazi propaganda. The war was ending. The location was chosen with the full awareness of what it meant. No explanation was necessary. FBI Miami shootout aftermath, April 11, 1986. 2 FBI agents died, 5 were wounded, and both suspects were killed, all in under 5 minutes. The shootout revealed that FBI agents were outgunned by criminals using semi-automatic rifles. Jim Henson with cat George Washington. 1961, the man who built the Muppet universe sat with his cat in 1961. 2 years before Sesame Street existed as a concept and 9 years before it aired. He named his cat after a president. He was 25 years old and already entirely himself. Bill Wyman and 14-year-old Mandy Smith. Circa 1984, he was 48. She was 14. They began a relationship and eventually married when she was 18. No charges were ever filed. The Rolling Stones bassist continued performing and giving interviews for decades. Nellie Bly with Austrian Army officer, Poland. December 1914, she had circumnavigated the globe in 72 days in 1889. By 1914, she was covering the Eastern Front for the New York Evening Journal, one of the few women reporting from the war. The Austrian officer beside her is photographed as her interview subject. The dynamic favors her. Man reads paper blown from World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. The towers had just collapsed. Paper from every office in both buildings had blown across lower Manhattan. This man picked one up and began reading it on a dust-covered street. 650,000 firearms collected after Port Arthur massacre, Australia. 1996, 35 people were killed. Within weeks, Australia passed the National Firearms Agreement and bought back 650,000 weapons. There has not been a mass shooting in Australia since. The photograph shows what a legislative response to a massacre. Ryan White's funeral. Elton John as pallbearer. 1990 Ryan White contracted HIV through a blood transfusion as a child and was barred from school by his Indiana community. He spent his remaining years fighting the stigma publicly. Elton John attended his funeral as a pallbearer. Ryan was 18. His case changed American public understanding of AIDS. Kurt Cobain death scene. Seattle police photos released 2016. He died on April 5, 1994. The Seattle Police Department released previously unseen images 22 years later, part of a case review that found no new evidence. The photographs confirmed what the original investigation concluded. Paris, December 14, 1961. Someone organized this. People wore Dalmatian masks and brought actual Dalmatians to a cinema on the Champs-Élysées to celebrate Disney's film. The photograph is so specifically joyful that it requires no additional context. E.J. Belloc photographed Storyville, New Orleans. Early 1900s, Belloc photographed the madams and prostitutes of New Orleans' legal red light district with a documentary attention that treated them as subjects rather than subjects of moral concern. The negatives were found after his death. Many had been deliberately scratched. Nobody knows who scratched them or why. Jacques Leonard documents Romani community at Montjuic. 1952, he moved from Paris to a steep Barcelona hill and spent years photographing the Romani community living there, not as an outsider documenting poverty, but as someone who had fallen in love with a specific place and the people who inhabited it. The photographs show the difference between those two positions. Charles Laurie as the pug dog, Drury Lane, 1888. He specialized in animal impersonation, performing dogs, cats, and other creatures using physical comedy and costume. The 1888 pantomime program listed him as a pug dog. The audience and the critics both agreed he was clearly a French poodle. The distinction apparently mattered to someone. 1941, a first cousin of Queen Elizabeth II was registered as dead and hidden in a mental institution in 1941 along with her sister. The royal family's official records listed them as deceased. They lived in the institution for decades. The truth emerged only after their actual deaths. Nazi Germany seizes church bells across Europe. March 15, 1940, over 175,000 bells were confiscated and tens of thousands melted down for weapons production. The bells had hung in towers across Europe for centuries. They were removed systematically, documented in ledgers, and converted into artillery. The silence they left behind was part of the occupation's architecture. Tom Herndl shot in Gaza. He was moving Palestinian children away from an Israeli sniper's position when he was shot in the head. He died 9 months later. The soldier convicted of his manslaughter served 8 years. Herndl was 22 years old and had been in Gaza for 3 weeks. Shanghai Massacre, April 12, 1927. Chiang Kai-shek ordered Communist Party members executed in Shanghai, ending the first united front between the nationalists and communists. Thousands were killed in days. The break between the two parties defined Chinese politics for the next 22 years until the communists won the civil war entirely. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg sentenced to death, April 5, 1951. They were the only American civilians executed for espionage during the Cold War. The debate about the justice of their execution has never fully resolved. The declassified Venona intercepts confirmed Julius's spying, but left Ethel's role disputed. They were executed on June 19, 1953. Buchenwald prisoners celebrate liberation, April 11, 1945. They had been starved, worked, and tortured to the edge of survival. When American troops arrived, some of them found enough left in their bodies to celebrate. The photographs from that day document what liberation looks like from the inside of it. Britain outlaws slave trade. March 25, 1807. The Slave Trade Act ended the buying and selling of enslaved people across the British Empire, but not slavery itself, which continued until 1833. Britain had profited from the trade for 2 centuries. The 1807 Act was a beginning. It was also an acknowledgement that the beginning was very late. Big Ben cast at Whitechapel Bell Foundry, April 10, 1858. The largest bell ever cast in England was made by the same foundry that had been producing bells since 1570. It cracked months after installation and was recast. The second version, lighter, rotated so the hammer strikes a different spot, has been ringing above Westminster ever since. Microsoft founded April 4, 1975, Bill Gates and Paul Allen started the company to write BASIC for the Altair 8800 microcomputer, a machine most people had never heard of. Within a decade, they had licensed MS-DOS to IBM and were on their way to owning the operating system running most of the world's computers. First friction matches sold April 7, 1827. John Walker accidentally invented fire on demand while stirring a chemical mixture that ignited when he scraped it off the floor. He sold his first box for $1. He refused to patent the invention. Within years, others had patented improved versions. Walker received nothing from the industry he created. Massacre of Azerbaijani Muslims. March 1918, nearly 12,000 Azerbaijani Muslims were killed by Armenian Revolutionary Federation and Bolshevik forces in what Azerbaijanis called the March Days. The events occurred in the chaos following the Russian Revolution's collapse of imperial authority. They remain deeply contested between Armenian and Azerbaijani historical narratives. Madrid train bombings. March 11, 2004, coordinated explosions on 4 commuter trains killed 193 people in Spain's deadliest terrorist attack. The bombings occurred 3 days before the Spanish general election. The ruling party initially blamed ETA. When evidence pointed to Al-Qaeda, the government's handling of the information became the election's central issue. Soviet GAZ-14 truck running on firewood. 1936 model, 80 kilograms of firewood per 100 kilometers. The fuel economy of a vehicle the Soviet Union produced during an era of industrialization when petroleum distribution couldn't keep pace with vehicle production. The truck ran on wood because wood was available. It ran anyway. USSR poster. German soldiers fated to die in Russian winter. 1940, for the Soviet propaganda machine depicted the Wehrmacht not as invincible but as doomed, soldiers marching toward a white death that the Russian winter had already claimed from Napoleon. By 1944, the image was less propaganda than accurate description of what had already happened. Traitor. Retired colonel shouts at pro-democracy demonstrator. Moscow. 1990, K. Wolinski photographed the confrontation in Red Square as the Soviet Union was visibly losing its internal argument. A retired colonel who had spent his career defending one system screamed at a citizen demanding its replacement. Both men believed they were defending Russia. Only one would get what he wanted. Chernobyl liquidators cleaning reactor roof. April 1986, the white streaks on the photograph are not processing errors. They are radiation damage to the film itself. The liquidators were sent onto the roof with inadequate protection and told the exposure was manageable. The camera's film disagreed more honestly than the official dosimeters did. Ultraviolet bath for Soviet children. USSR. 1980s, UV light therapy was administered to Soviet children in schools and clinics throughout the 1980s as a public health measure, intended to compensate for vitamin D deficiency during long northern winters. The children wore masks to protect their eyes. The practice was state-organized and widespread. The USSR is a mighty bulwark of universal peace. 1936, the poster was published in 1936. The same year, Stalin's Great Purge began systematically killing hundreds of thousands of Soviet citizens. The state's self-description and its simultaneous actions occupied the same calendar year, without visible awareness of the contradiction being produced. Monument to the Conquerors of Space, unveiled 1964. The 107-meter titanium monument in Moscow was built to honor the Soviet space program at the height of its achievements. Gagarin had orbited Earth 3 years earlier. The Memorial Museum of Cosmonautics operates inside its base. The monument still stands exactly as it was built. Polish propaganda poster. General Secretary Bierut and Marshal Rokossovsky. 1952, Rokossovsky was a Soviet marshal imposed on Poland as defense minister, a foreign officer commanding a Polish army on behalf of a Soviet-controlled government. Jagodzinsky's poster depicted this arrangement as a harvest brought home to the motherland. The harvest belonged to Moscow. The poster was designed to suggest otherwise. Space Shuttle atop 747 with Concorde in background. 1983, both vehicles have been retired. The photograph cannot be taken again. The two most technologically ambitious aircraft of their era crossed each other's paths in 1983, and someone pressed the shutter at the precise second both were visible. The second will not recur. Rubber plantation worker, Belgian Congo. Alice Seeley Harris. Circa 1898, King Leopold II's Congo Free State enforced rubber quotas by mutilating workers who failed to meet them. Harris brought these photographs to Britain. The campaign they fueled directly led to Leopold surrendering the Congo to Belgian state control in 1908. The photographs were the evidence that forced the reckoning. IRA bomb aftermath, London, April 24, 1993. The Bishopsgate bomb caused over £350 million in damage, the most expensive terrorist attack in British history at that time. One person was killed. The IRA called it economic. The city rebuilt. The peace process that would end it was still 40 years away. Raymond Aubrac rescued by wife Lucy. 1943, he was captured by the Nazis and sentenced to death. His wife Lucy organized a commando raid and personally killed 6 Gestapo agents during the rescue. They remained married until her death in 2007. The rescue is one of the most extraordinary individual acts of the French resistance. Richard Chase only entered unlocked homes. The Sacramento serial killer who murdered 6 people in 1977 and 1978 later told investigators he interpreted locked doors as a sign he wasn't welcome and moved on. He killed only in homes where someone had left a door open. He was found guilty and died in prison in 1980. George Lincoln Rockwell's Hate Bus, Virginia. 1961, the American Nazi Party's founder drove through Virginia in 1961 with a bus painted with explicit hate slogans, a deliberate counter-provocation to the Freedom Riders. Rockwell was assassinated by a former member of his own organization in 1967 in a laundromat parking lot in Arlington. Siegfried Müller, Nazi-turned-Congo mercenary. 1960s, he decorated his vehicles with enemy bones and mounted heads on spears during the Congo crisis. He gave interviews about his war crimes with visible pride. He was never convicted of anything. He died in East Germany in 1983. The Congo crisis's mercenary violence was never systematically prosecuted. Matthew Shepard's hate crime, October 6, 1998, he was lured from a bar, tied to a fence, and beaten so severely his skull fractured. He was found 18 hours later still alive, face covered in blood except where his tears had cleaned tracks through it. He died 6 days later. He was 21 years old. Giant sawfish caught near Sabine Pass. 1938, the 14-foot, 650-pound sawfish was caught by Mac Calais and photographed at a Sears store in Port Arthur. The giant sawfish has been critically endangered since the early 20th century. Its population collapsed from overfishing before conservation laws existed to prevent it. The 1938 photograph documents an animal almost gone. Maddox Dakosh killed at Pittsburgh Zoo. 2012, his mother ignored safety barriers and lifted him over the railing. He fell into the African painted dog enclosure. By the time a rescue was possible, little remained. He was 2 years old. The 11 dogs were not destroyed. The zoo modified its barriers. Thomas Fitzpatrick Land's stolen plane on Manhattan Street. 1956, he stole a small plane from New Jersey while drunk and landed it on a narrow Manhattan street in front of his bar. 2 years later, he did it again because someone didn't believe him. He was charged with minor violations both times. The FAA was not amused either time. Jimmy Savile's sexual predation revealed after death. 2011, for decades, he hosted one of Britain's most beloved children's television programs while conducting hundreds of sexual assaults, many inside BBC facilities and NHS hospitals. He died in 2011 before any charges could be brought. The investigation that followed revealed institutional failures across multiple organizations. Marc Dutroux's discovery, Belgium, August 15, 1996. Behind a concrete door in his basement, Belgian police found 2 girls barely alive. He had starved them for months. The investigation revealed corruption reaching government levels. Belgium held its largest protest march in history, demanding accountability. The system that allowed it was never fully explained. JNR's 3 big mysteries. Summer 1949, 3 inexplicable incidents struck Japan National Railways in 6 weeks. A mysterious presidential suicide, a deadly crash blamed on a conductor despite evidence, and an unexplained derailment. All 3 remain officially unresolved. The mysteries coincided with a period of intense labor disputes and occupation politics. Arnold Schwarzenegger takes no pay for twins. 1988, he deferred his salary entirely and took a profit share instead. The film earned over $216 million on a $15 million budget. His share came to over $40 million, the most he ever earned from a single film. The gamble worked because he understood his own market value precisely. Princess Diana in Portofino, August 1997. She was photographed in Italy 1 week before her death in the Paris underpass. She looks entirely present and entirely at ease in these photographs, unguarded in a way that the public rarely saw. The camera had followed her for 16 years. These were among its last frames of her alive. Marvin Gaye killed by his father, April 1, 1980, for the day before his 45th birthday. His father shot him during an argument. The gun had been a gift from Marvin himself. Marvin Gaye Sr. was initially charged with first-degree murder. A brain tumor discovered before sentencing reduced the charge. He received a suspended sentence and never served time.